Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. And, I gotta tell you, I remember when we first got the diagnosis for Lyric. Well, actually, it was when he was one. And I just remember feeling so many emotions and a little overwhelmed to the point where I didn't know what to do. I was like, I just can't do anything. And my pediatrician said, oh, we can put you over here. And hey, this person said that. But it was just a little too overwhelming and there was too much going on. And I really needed somebody to help me. Right here in Georgia, no matter what age group you go through and you have those moments like, oh my gosh, I'm a little overwhelmed, I need some help. I found an organization that can do just that for you, and it's called Together We Care. Sitting with me today, the founder and executive director of Together We Care Georgia, Jillian Palmiotto. Hi, Jillian. How you doing?
I'm good, Gina. How are you doing?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I know I briefly got to see you in real life at a big award ceremony just before the holidays. With Together We Care Georgia, where did you get the inspiration to even start this organization, and what is it about?
Well, that's a great question. My inspiration really was born out of just my experience as a special education teacher. My heart is for families that are served through special education, and then I have, for the last 10 years, been in special needs and disability ministry with local churches, and so it was really born out of kind of fulfilling that role and really just doing life with special needs families and understanding their lived experience and, just kind of what their needs are. And so to answer the second part of your question, about what is Together We Care, primarily the service that we provide to families is helping them with resource navigation. So it's free resource navigation that we offer to the community, and we just meet with families and develop an individualized plan to help them understand all of the supports that already exist for them, like Social Security, Medicaid. Where do you find respite care? Where do we get funding for respite care? Where do we go to camp? What do we do with a job when our kid transitions out of high school? How do we get the right educational support? So it's kind of every season of life brings its own little emergencies, and we try to help families solve those emergencies.
That's well put, for sure.
Yeah.
So how many families do you serve right now?
Right now, we're currently serving about 400 families in Metro Atlanta. We have a handful outside the state of Georgia, but primarily in the state of Georgia.
Now, I have a question that was posed to me, and I'd love to ask you this. So this is kind of just like off the mark here.
Yeah.
I had a lady call me the other day, and she said, Gina, my son just got denied the Now Comp waiver. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, man, I hear it happen so often because, well, one, we have a wait list of 7,000 folks, and hopefully we'll bring that down this year. Two, because our direct support providers don't get paid but $10 an hour. That leads to another layer of the fact that they can't get people passed on the Now and Comp waiver. So in this instance, if she was to call Together We Care, where would you point her in the direction? Would you have her refill out the paperwork? Would you help her with that process?
Yeah, that's a great question, and yes to all of the above.
Okay, good.
So yes, we try to figure out what the denial reason was, because there's all sorts of reasons that we've learned why the first time that you submit, sometimes it will get denied, and then sometimes it's a simple matter of just resubmitting with a different psychological report, or maybe they needed more information, or maybe it just landed on the wrong person's desk, to be honest. And so sometimes if you can resubmit it and get it to a different evaluator, you might get a different outcome. And so sometimes it is just a matter of resubmitting. Sometimes it's a matter of appealing, but you really have to get that denial letter and then contact them to figure out why it was denied. Once we have a reason for the denial, that kind of creates the pathway for knowing how to recomplete the forms or appeal or kind of whichever way you need to go. A lot of people don't realize that if you submit a psychological report that has an IQ score of above 70, or if the adapted scores are really high, because we push really hard in school to have good adapted scores so that you can do stuff in life, then DBHCD likes to deny.
that's exactly what she told me about. It's because the
Yeah,
IQ is, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't need that support. And so,
correct.
and it's just such a shame that sometimes it comes down to a piece of paper when if you could sit with someone,
Yeah.
you would actually know, like, you know what, this person definitely deserves that now comp waiver. You
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we always encourage people, after we kind of get them started with the process of resubmitting or deny, going through the appeals process, we do also help them understand what region they lived in, who their region administrator is, who the contact person is in the region, who the right contact people are to begin advocating for receiving that now comp waiver. Because there are lots of people with an IQ of above 70 that receive the now comp waiver. So that's not the only criteria. There's 6 criteria, and individuals have to meet 3 out of the 6. And so, so you just want to make sure that you're kind of following. If you're meeting 3 out of the 6, then you need to be awarded that waiver.
Do you know all 6? Can you share?
I don't know all 6. I've looked them up every time.
Yes, look it up every day. Hey, with me today, Jillian Palmiotto, who is the founder and executive director of Together We Care right here in Georgia. And coming up, I want to ask a little bit about some consulting packages that Jillian and her team take care of right here on Life with the Spectrum. Stay with me.
Life with the Spectrum would like to thank our friends at Don's Tree Service. Mention that you heard it here and get 10% off. 770-413-TREE. If you'd like to have your business name here, reach us at gcast.com.
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, the founder and executive director of Together We Care, serving more than 400 families here in Metro Georgia. And Jillian, you do a lot of other things outside of helping families and advocating and putting the care in care with community and whatnot. When it comes to consulting packages, where do you go? Like, who are you consulting and what do they look like?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Yeah, and we do have a ton of things that we offer because we are pulling the community together. And if we see that there's a gap in the community, then we're like, let's start that for families, right? So we have a respite, respite caregiving arm of our organization. We have a resource directory that points parents into other providers, like all of those kind of things. But with our consulting, we consult with faith communities. So it doesn't necessarily have to be any one particular type of faith, but any type of faith community that is looking to serve the area around them. What we have found is that there is a huge just gap between what faith communities understand about disability and people with disability being part of faith communities. And as we all know, faith communities and nonprofits can be a huge game changer in communities because they have volunteer base, they have projects that they like to fund. They have lots of things that they like to do to reach marginalized populations. And so we have found a niche there where if we can just equip faith communities for receiving families with that have a loved one with a disability, understanding disability a little bit better, then they can kind of partner with us in making sure that the needs are met for those families.
I got to tell you, there's a church, and I don't know the name off the top of my head. It's in Noonan. It's a big church down there, too, and it's wonderful. One of my best girlfriends who has a daughter with Down syndrome goes there, and, I mean, she just has the best time when she goes, and so her mom gets the faith that she needs. The daughter gets the faith that she needs. But it doesn't look the same way that it would look like to you and I. And I love that. I love people thinking creatively outside of the box. But Jillian, I want to kind of get back to something that you mentioned. You just said volunteers. And it looks like as if we didn't have volunteers volunteering,
yes,
this world would look so much different, wouldn't it? And I know that you seek several different volunteers in several different categories on your website. Care to share what those are and how people can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are always looking for our top 2 places where we really need volunteers is learning to become a coordinator, which is essentially doing those online intakes with our families. Becoming a coordinator allows us to serve more families faster, but it's a bit of a training process. So you have to train with me for about 2 months to kind of learn our roadmap and learn the questions that we ask and how we facilitate those conversations with families to be able to prioritize that plan, right? And so that is like a weekly commitment. And then we also have one key role that we have in our organization is what we call family support coaches. Now, these coaches are basically accountability partners, and the great thing that I love about this volunteer role is that it's from home on your own time on your phone, right? So it's super convenient and
easy
when you do it, right? You don't have to show it to meetings and all that kind of thing. And so we're not, out building a house or whatever. And what we do is we assign about 4 or 5 families to each one of our family support coaches, and our family support coaches really just serve as an accountability partner to make sure that they are actually following the plan that we've outlined, to make sure that they're getting their needs met, see if they have any questions, things like that, and then they can kind of report back to the coordinators to say, hey, this family is struggling with this thing. What resources do we have for that, to kind of get them information quicker and faster?
Sure. So your organization has a lot of volunteers. How can people start to become a volunteer with Together We Care?
Yeah, so they just go to our website and they can kind of browse around on, on the volunteer page, and there is a button there where they can just schedule, just submit like a link to schedule a meeting to do an interview with us, and then we just do a Zoom interview and we figure out what the best fit is going to be, for what the volunteer is looking for, the time commitment, what they're really passionate about, and then we plug them in one of our volunteer roles.
I like that. Yeah, because not everybody has the time to stay on the phone 20, 30 minutes every single day checking in with multiple families, but then they might have time to go out on a Saturday or do something maybe in real life or whatever the case may be. I love this. Sitting with me today, Jillian Palmiotto, the founder and executive director of Together We Care right here in Georgia, serving more than 400 families in metro Atlanta. When we get back, we're going to find out about fundraisers, galas, and how you as a family can possibly be one of those families being served by Together We Care. Stay with me.
I'm Lear Gillenwater. Thanks for checking out this episode of Life with the Spectrum. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll always see the newest episodes when they come out.
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, Jillian Palmiotto, who, of course, is the founder and executive director. I just like to say your last name of Together We Care. I do. I love it.
I want you to spell it for everybody.
Okay, it's P-A... listen, Jillian, really quick, I know that you have some special fundraisers and galas, and you have a big Together We Care conference coming up. Do you care to share what that looks like, where people can get registered, how they can attend?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that is our biggest fundraiser of the year. That's what our conference is, what helps us to keep all of our services for families free so that we don't have to charge families for our resource planning. And the conference is primarily for anyone who is looking to start a special needs ministry, kind of beef up the inclusion strategies. We like to tell people special needs ministries they don't need to be separate things, right? It's just how do we best include people with disabilities in all aspects of our faith community. And so it's primarily for the faith communities and anybody wishing to either start something, improve something, if there are church or synagogue leaders that just don't know where to start. We are the starting point for making sure that you are reaching that community right in your backyard. Many people don't realize that about 20% of the U.S. population has a disability, and right here in Georgia, there's 2 million Georgians that have a disability. And so, so when we are reaching those nonprofits and those faith communities, it's just world changing for the people right here in Georgia, to be able to have multiple places that they can go that they know can help to meet their needs. And so we pull in people from all over the country that are disability ministry experts. And we bring them in, and so we have about 40 breakout sessions, and it's a full day, just a one-day conference from 8:30 to 4:30. And food is included, all of the good things, and you get an option of 4 breakout sessions, and then there's 2 keynotes, and so we have some just really great content. And so even if
who are your speakers this coming up?
Oh my goodness! Well, we have about 40, so I can't name them all off the top of my head. I know I'm speaking.
All right. No, you said you had some keynote speakers. Is somebody coming from the X Factor?
Yes, yeah. So we have Ryan Page, who's going to be providing the music entertainment for us at the beginning, and then I will be providing the keynote speaker. But yeah, Ryan was on the X Factor several years ago, and she has a disability herself, and it's really important to us that with our conference that we are utilizing the gifts and talents of people with disabilities, so that we don't just have a bunch of able-bodied, people, leading the conference and telling you what you should do for people with disabilities. We want people with disabilities telling you what you should do for people with disabilities, right?
Right, right. It makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just like a no-brainer,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. And then our second keynote will actually be a whole panel of all of our speakers and people involved in the conference that have disabilities, so that they can really share their story and kind of and just help people really kind of get into their world a little bit.
And when is this conference again?
The conference is going to be on March 9th at Johnson Ferry Church in Marietta, Georgia, and you can find all the information at togetherconference.net.
Okay, togetherconference.net. And is there a link off of the togetherwecarega.org website to that?
There is.
Wonderful.
Yep, they're both connected.
And then what other celebrations and galas do you have throughout the year that people can look forward to?
Well, this past year, we actually launched another fundraiser, and it was an 80s dance party. Woo! And it was so much fun. We just got together and listened to all the nostalgic music, and did the Thriller dance and all the things. And so we all came dressed up in our 80s gear, and so it was just a great time. And so we held that in October, and we are planning on having that again in October of 2024. So you can kind of watch our website for information on that. And we are in talks about potentially hosting another fundraiser that will be kind of a sports night with some well-known athletes and things like that, like a game and sports night sometime in the summer. So
we're not shy of those here in the ATL, that's for sure.
That's right.
Jillian Palmiotto, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Gina. It was such a pleasure.
Make sure you get those tickets for the Together We Care conference. It's coming up March 9th, and you can hit up their website at togetherwecarega.org. Also, a great website to go if you're interested in volunteering and want to give back, because you know what? Maybe you've been there, done that, and your child is older and now an adult, and you know what it's like when you first get that diagnosis. The information that you get is almost overwhelming. And what if you do get denied the Now and Comp or the Katie Beckett? Where do you go from there? All of those things that you remember that you went through, you can turn around and help and pay it forward for another family, right? So togetherwecarega.org for not just the conference, but for families who are interested in getting help and for volunteering for those families who need it, right? Thank you so much for checking into Life with the Spectrum. Each week I am getting so many great guests that are making a difference in the world of disability. And I can't say thank you enough for coming in and liking and commenting and sharing, and most of all, subscribing to the channel. Now Life with the Spectrum is an audio podcast, so you can grab that wherever you grab your audio podcasts. Till next time, we live life with the Spectrum. See ya.
Bye.